Hello, it's nice to have you here. Today we will discuss the unusual use of Elemental Hit on a melee build. Elemental Hit is a very versatile attack that can be used with most weapon types. The skill itself doesn't rely on your weapon damage, instead it uses its own damage values, which is very similar to spells in that regard. The best way to scale its damage is through support gems and the gem levels. With certain influences on your weapon, you can quite easily get a pseudo 9 link setup for your main skill, and push it up to 12 link if you have enough currency to spend. To accomplish that you will also need the Squire Shield, which simply applies gems socketed inside of it to your weapon. The other focus of this build is the life regeneration, which is being converted into rage with the use of Chaos Spirit Gloves. It grants high berserk uptime, which grants tons of damage, speed, and durability. Attack speed is a great way to scale flat damage from Elemental Hit, but it also simply makes the build much more enjoyable to play. The best and universal ascendancy for such build is the Champion. Thanks to the Petrified Blood you can easily have 100% uptime on the Adrenaline buff, and you don't need to worry too much about accuracy rating. It also grants you tons of generic damage and durability. Elemental Hit randomly chooses one of the 3 elements to deal damage, and any sources of additional damage from other elements are discarded. It deals more damage per each ailment affecting the enemy, so using alternative ailments such as Brittle or Scorch is even more powerful than usual. It is a very tanky build. Fortify, Sap, Adrenaline, Berserk, and your Ascendancy grant you tons of damage mitigation. The Petrified Blood splits half of the incoming damage into a damage over time effect, thus making your life leech more effective. You will also have plenty of armor and block chance. The mobility and clear speed of this build are great, although the area of effect coverage is fundamentally limited by your melee range. The single target fights require some setup such as totems or ramped up elemental ailments, but the potential is very high. The weapon and shield take the majority of the build budget. Aside of that, most of the gear is of a rare quality, so it all depends on how good you want them to be. There are only a few unique items used by this build. The Squire is quite expensive and it is a very big upgrade, but it's not even required for regular tier 16 mapping. The Squire is not easy to acquire but will add 3 extra support gems for your setup. It is a great way to nearly double your damage, but it also ramps up the mana cost pretty high. If you struggle to obtain the Squire or multi-link weapon, you can use the Paradoxica sword with a 100% double damage chance and a regular 6 link in your body armor. It is not as good as the final setup, but much more affordable. Chaos Spirit converts your life regeneration into insane amounts of rage, which allows you to use Berserk far more often than usual. You don't need additional life regen on your rare gear, but it is surely beneficial to have. You will get tons of critical strike chance from Brittle, so you can use this amulet to get a massive amount of critical strike multiplier. You can also use catalysts to get more critical strike multiplier, but be aware it will also lower your critical chances too. If you can't get alternating scepter or crucible mod for Elemental Hit, you should use this jewel instead. It enables alternative ailments while disabling regular ones. Scorch and Brittle are very important for your DPS, as they lower enemy resistances and improve your chances to score a critical hit against them. The Duelist has many good notables to borrow, but the best ones are the Bane of Legends, Arena Challenger, or Impact. You can also use Brutal Fervor to improve your defense and recovery. While you use a lot of auras, there are only a few useful modifiers to be found on this jewel, namely precision and vitality related. If you need more defense, you can get modifiers related to the Determination aura. You can use only one of those two. Their effect is very similar, they add certain bonuses to allocated passives in their radius. The bonuses are very random, so you will need external tools such as the Path of Building to find the best one for you. The weapon is by far the most important piece of this build. The rest of the gear is pretty usual. You should look for maximum life, resistances, elemental damage, and critical strike multiplier. The accuracy is solved by your Ascendancy, as you will never miss a hit against taunted enemies. The Shaper and Elder influences allow you to get modifiers that add extra support gem to socketed skills or simply cause them to deal more damage. Obtaining at least 3 of them is already quite hard to craft, but you can find them cheaply on the market since the demand for them is very low. If you can't get Squire, you should use a rare shield that provides you with tons of maximum life, attack speed, and resistances. It should provide many defensive bonuses, so you can get more damage on your other gear pieces. Here you have lots of options with useful influence modifiers. It should always provide plenty of maximum life and resistances, but other than that, you can look for modifiers such as additional critical strike chance for attacks, frenzy charge generation, or onslaught when hit. The rare helmet is your biggest source of mana reservation efficiency. You can try to start crafting on a helmet that already has useful enchant. Look for maximum life, resistances, and lacking attributes. You will move around using mostly leap slam, but some movement speed is always useful, especially if it comes with attack speed from onslaught or tailwind too. Other than that, look for maximum life, resistances, and optionally attributes or elemental avoidances. You can use regular rare gloves and use Berserk only when it's needed for a short burst of damage. In such case, you should aim for maximum life, attack speed, resistances, attributes, and additional strike targets or rage generation. On your belt you can get tons of maximum life, resistances, and missing attributes. It's also possible to increase elemental damage with attacks or improve your flask sustain. A hunter's influence would allow you to boost the maximum life even more. If you use Stygian Vice for your belt, you can fit one extra Abyss Jewel in there. It should grant you maximum life, critical strike multiplier, and lacking resistances, attributes, or elemental avoidances. Rare Ring is another great place to get lots of attributes, resistances, maximum life, and some damage. They should also provide flat mana cost reduction for your skills. Elemental Hit has many tags, so you can easily get lots of critical strike multiplier with your jewels. You should also look for maximum life, lacking resistances and attributes, or attack speed. You can also get Corrupted Implicit that will make you immune to corrupted blood. Use large clusters matching your weapon type. You should use all three notables. Feed the Fury is overall the best one to get, but you should also include one Fuel the Fight to get Mana Leech. The Calamitous is also a great option as it will improve your brittle effect on bosses. You can get lots of critical strike and double damage chances through your medium jewels, which you can use 4 of. You can also use 1 or 2 jewels focused on ailment effects to make sure you can always inflict maximum effects of them on bosses. Bottled Faith is a very strong offensive flask that creates consecrated ground with greatly increased range. You will have an increased critical strike chance and deal more damage to enemies standing inside of it. For your remaining flasks, we recommend using Life Flask with Bleeding Removal, Quicksilver with Attack Speed or Critical Strike Chance bonus, Granite Flask with Armor Rating bonus, and Jade Flask with Evasion Rating bonus. The Elemental Hit deals damage of a randomly chosen element, and has additional damage per each ailment on an enemy. The final setup depends on your weapon, but it should always include Trinity, Multi-Strike, and Inspiration. We recommend using the Path of Building tool to determine the best outcome with your specific character. If you got enough damage, you should use Awakened Ancestral Call to massively improve its clear capabilities. Petrified Blood causes half of the damage you take to be dealt over time, and you can't regenerate over 50% maximum life except for the Life Flask. You will need summon Skitterbots to inflict shock and chill in conjunction with alternative ailments. Determination Aura grants you tons of physical damage mitigation by providing a big amount of flat armor rating and an armor multiplier. Tempest Shield grants you plenty of spell block chance and makes you immune to shocks. You can also use the Arctic Armor instead, which grants physical damage reduction and freeze immunity. Your Ascendancy makes your banner skill free to use. The Defiance banner increases your armor and evasion rating, and lowers the enemy's critical strike chance. All your auras except the banner should be linked with Enlightened to reduce their mana reservation cost. If you can't fit all auras due to lack of proper gear, cut out the Tempest Shield. Vitality grants lots of life regeneration which we use to generate rage. It reserves a flat amount instead of the usual percentage. Precision grants accuracy rating and critical strike chance. It also enables powerful Watcher's Eye modifiers. Blood and Sand grants extra area of effect or damage, depending on the stance. It also allows you to use the Arena Challenger notable, which you can get through Forbidden Jewels. Those auras should be linked with the Arrogant support to reserve your life instead of mana. It will not lower your survivability as you use the Petrified Blood anyway. Ancestral Protector summons a totem that grants you tons of attack speed when you are close to it. Ancestral Warchief is also a totem skill that grants you a buff to attack damage while it's active. The Vol version grants you an even more powerful buff for a short time. Multiple totem support will allow you to surpass the active totem limits. You should avoid using it with Vol Ancestral Warchief, as it would use both Vol charges in a single use. Enemies marked by Assassin's Mark will take more damage from your critical strikes, and you will generate power charges. You can automate the mark application with this support gem at the cost of reducing its effect a bit. It will still require you to have enough mana to pay its cost. Berserk rapidly consumes your rage, but grants insane amounts of damage and damage reduction during its effect. The cooldown starts when the effect ends. Leap Slam performs a quick jump toward the targeted location. It always stuns enemies with full life, which makes it a great skill to engage. Blood Rage deals a low amount of damage over time to you, but grants you attack speed and frenzy charge generation. You will need anomalous quality to generate frenzy charges against bosses. Killing all bandits for 2 additional passive skill points is better than any of their offers. The Soul of the Brine King is a great and effortless way to get freeze immunity. It also helps against enemies who try to stun you. When using Petrified Blood, damage over time effects can be quite dangerous. For that reason, we recommend using either Soul of Ralakesh or Soul of Shikari. The passive tree focuses on maximum life, critical strikes, and utility such as Fortify, mana reservation, or additional strikes. The weapon-specific notables should be acquired through large cluster jewels, as doing so will allow you to use even more medium cluster jewels. Such a high amount of critical strike chance is necessary to use the Maryland's Fallacy Amulet for insane amounts of critical strike multiplier and a culling strike. Relying so much on critical strikes can be bothersome during leveling. For that reason, we recommend altering the passive tree a bit to include nearby useful damage increasing notables which you can later remove. The adrenaline buff obtained through your ascendancy is a very powerful tool. It grants you tons of damage and attack speed, and a solid amount of physical damage mitigation. You can trigger it by using a life flask which will surpass the healing limits of Petrified Blood. There is a great spot for the Timeless Jewel under the Duelist starting point, as it has many good notables in radius. The bonuses are hidden behind the seed, but they will always grant additional attributes, which you can use to your advantage if you lack them for the gear requirements. We hope you enjoyed watching this build guide. If you want to see more of our videos, please leave a like and subscribe. Have a good day, and see you in the next video.